went into a deep depression. You know, it's not uncommon. And I was just a mess on every level, you know, really in a dark, dark place. And when you're going through something like that and you don't know why, you think you're alone, and you think that you're losing your mind, and you think that no one understands. Right. You know? That
separateness we were talking about.
Yes, yeah. It's no one knows, and I'm crazy, and there's all this fear if people find out really about me, you know, my secrets, and, you know, and all these things. So
my dark side.
Yeah, your dark side. Yeah. Well, welcome to humanity. And I hit such a point where something had to happen, you know, and sometimes it takes such deep suffering in order for there to be a crack in your ability to surrender. And I surrendered. I just said, okay, I don't know what's going on here. I really want help, and I don't know where it is. I want truth. Sometimes it has to get so bad that you're forced to look at what you want and not wallow in what you don't want. Does that make sense?
Well, there's such a disempowering energy when you're that way. It's hard to stay there, you know, forever.
Well, you can't.
You'll flip to something else, and maybe it'll be anger, but you know, you get into this flip flop, and finally, it's like, okay, this is getting a little tiring. It's hard to be there for
it beats
for
you up
long.
On every level.
Yeah, I've experienced it myself. So what choices did you make that kind of moved you out of that?
Well, you see, that's the funny thing about the universe. I didn't have to make choices. That was the only choice I needed to make. Was I want to feel good. I want to know truth. That's what I said. I want to know what the truth is here, what's going on. Because I used to think I knew, because that's what criticism is. That's what ego is. So you think you know. You don't know anything really. So then mysteriously, it's very interesting, a couple of things just started to happen. One was a book came to me in the mail, and it was called The Magic in Your Mind by U.S. Anderson. And it was the first book that I ever read that showed the difference between your thinking mind and your presence, you know? And I didn't really understand it at the time, but it led me to another book, which was The Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga by Vishnu Devananda. And in it was meditational techniques. It was about keeping the body healthy and all these things. And you know, when you're in a state like that, and something comes that even just dangles a little string of light, you're like, you know. And I embraced this book, and then I found this bookstore in Hollywood called the Bodhi Tree, which was this unbelievable metaphysical bookstore that had everything that you can imagine, from spirituality to religions, and UFOs and numerology, witchcraft, all this stuff, right? So I was like, wow, you know, and I was living there, reading and consuming all this stuff. And I started to just make change. The changes naturally happened. So the universe or the world, whatever, brought me that book. And then it brought me another book, and then it brought me a person that was able to say things that I could relate to, that helped a bit. And then, so I was slowly, my momentum changed. The direction of the momentum changed.
You're expanding.
I was expanding in more of a positive direction.
Yeah.
So I naturally started to take a closer look at my body, you know, and I became a vegetarian, and it worked for me, you know, and I've been a vegetarian for 35 years, you know. Now, I don't really have a concern what other people eat or what other people do, you know, that's fine. And, you know, everybody's different, and you have to find what works best for you, whether it's just something you've created mentally or actually your body requires these things more than those things. But that was one of the biggest shifts for me when I became a vegetarian. Now, I don't know if it was because of being, you know, because of the limited diet that started to change my perspective, or just all the stuff I was. There was probably a combination, but it worked for me.
Physically.
Physically.
And energetically as well, or
energetically as well too.
Okay.
Absolutely, everything started. I started to exercise, and when I joined David Lee Roth's band, he was really into like intense exercise. So I was introduced to high intensity exercise.
Yeah, his
and I
jumps.
loved it. His jumps. I was lifting and climbing and running, and it was fantastic, you know, because I would like run around the block and think that I exercised. Not with Dave Roth. You got to push yourself until, you know, and I enjoyed that. Yeah. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I was in a momentum, and it's never stopped, you know, and but what I realized through it all. And I should say this, other things then became challenges. The becoming famous in the little field that I'm in came with challenges, you know, and you don't even realize that you're, you know, for me it was all of a sudden, virtually overnight, I was a rock star, you know, and on the cover of all the magazines around the world, and everything that is at your disposal, sex, drugs, money, and a lot of that stuff never really resonated with me. You know, I never really did drugs. I was never promiscuous, really. I've been with the same woman for 37 years, you know, and I like a non-complicated life that way. And as a result, the fame came in the back door, the ego, you know, when everybody's telling you you're great, and at first you're going, well, these guys are crazy, I don't know what they're talking about, I'm not great, I'm just playing. But then everybody, you know, and you're on all the magazines, and you're reading letters, and you're seeing things that your heroes are saying that are, you know, you can start, you know, and that inherently has the seed of suffering in it too.
Well, is it because you started to care more about what people thought, where before you were just being true to yourself as a creative, expressive being?
Yeah, to a degree. Because when I made my first solo record, I had no expectations. I had, if anything, when I was younger, and I think one of the things that brought on that depression was I had a fear of being famous. You know, because I had heard, when you know, you hear things when you're a kid, famous people go insane. It was something that somebody said, so okay, I'm never going to remember. It's a conditioning.
Sure.
It's just
like we were talking about.
It's a conditioning. So then when I realized this, there was this momentum of notoriety starting to take place. It kind of tripped me out. I think that was part of it.
Am I insane yet?
Yeah, am I insane yet? And then you become a self-fulfilled prophecy. But I realized that that's all bullshit, really, you know. So. And inevitably, trends change and things change, and you're not number one anymore in this guitar poll that doesn't really mean anything, you know. I mean, it's nice to be recognized for your contribution. That's always nice. I'm very, you know, I honor the awards that I get and stuff like that, but I've learned not to make an identity for myself out of them, you know.
Well, that's why it's so important to me to get this part of yourself out there, because people, you know, they think, oh, guitar god, and that's all part of you. That's an aspect of yourself. Yeah. But I mean, I've been able to see in you such a deeper, higher conscious side that I think people will be very inspired by.
Well, yeah. Well, if there's anything I can do to help people that may have gone through the similar things I've gone through, and to find their creative joy, then that's good.
That's very inspiring. Well, I think sometimes with things like depression and anxiety that people need to see the contrast in order to appreciate the things that they do get in life.
Yeah, the trick is, you know, in step 2, you know what you start pointing at what you want, and you know that you can do it. Is in the recognition of the thoughts, and you can't beat yourself up when you see that there's this deep momentum of negative thinking. Just the separation from it is all you have. That's your only responsibility. Is just to see this is just a thought in my head right now. You know what I mean? Then that will then evolve into And you'll go back into being that negative thought because there's a momentum. And then once you're able to see that this is the reason why you're feeling a particular way, then you will more and more have that observing perspective of it, and it starts to dissolve. Do you know what I mean? Because your negative thoughts need food, and that food is your belief in them, your attention to them.
Yeah, you're giving them power.
You're
so
giving them
when you
power.
don't give it power anymore.
Yeah, if
then-
you don't give it power anymore, it dissolves.
Interesting.
And what's left is that opening
The opening.
to your instinctual creative potential.
Well, I hope people are able to be inspired to know that that opening is possible for them through our conversation.